Welcome to the KIPS podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. I have a YouTube friend, new friend for me, that we're going to talk about working online, YouTube, fitness information that hopefully helps you grow your career. Michelle, thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast, share your story, share information, and it's great to chat with you in this capacity.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Whenever YouTube comes up, I automatically just kind of light up because it's one of those trigger words for me. Like, oh my goodness, get to talk about YouTube. And so getting someone else in the same space, always enjoy it. For the listeners, and to kind of kick this episode off, can you share some information about yourself, your history in the fitness career, how you got started and where you're at now?
All right, Tyler, I've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years. So that's going to age me a little bit. Originally got into fitness as a massage therapist. I always was an athlete in high school. And then it kind of evolved from there, went into teaching classes and then personal training. And then my husband, then when I got married, we owned a health club for over 20 years and we had a large membership.
Wow.
And then when COVID hit, it kind of just made things different for me and for a lot of people. And that's when I decided that I wanted to stay connected with my community. And I started growing content on YouTube. I actually started with a GoPro. My son, I bought him a GoPro when he was wanting to do trick shots like Dude Perfect on YouTube, right? It all comes back to YouTube. And I was like, wait, I could record with this little thing and it gets a great view. And it was, I had a great content then. I thought it was great. And then I just started throwing it up a little bit before the pandemic because I've always dabbled in computers, and my dad was in computers, which is kind of odd because I grew up in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota, but my dad had a background in computers and he was a farmer. So that was like this weird combination. So from there, after the pandemic hit and we were shut down at our health club, I just kept putting content up, started going live on YouTube. And then my teenager, at the time, he was like, well, why don't you sell merch? Why don't you, he was giving me tips and information.
Yeah.
And I took it and I rolled with it. And then I really started listening. I think, Tyler, the biggest change was listening to my community and really creating the content that they wanted and just going from there.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. And there's been so many people that were in that boat where when the pandemic hit and they're all of a sudden they're looking at their options, like I don't have a place to train my clients, and then they adapt like just how you did, and they have these great stories just like how you're sharing. I think that's something that I feel like I got goosebumps right now. That's one of those things that I always enjoy to hear, how people took that opportunity and their career just took off, because how many times they were in a situation where they felt like they weren't appreciated at the facility they were working at, or they felt like they could do more, and then all of a sudden like, oh, I have to hustle, I have to grow, and boom, they just take off. So I always like those stories, and I'm sure there's people out there that enjoy it as well.
Well, Tyler, it did not boom take off right away.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a new YouTuber, you're gonna go like, hey, it takes a lot of grind and it takes a lot of knowledge. Like I went into it just throwing some stuff out on there, and then when I really wanted to get serious about it, I started watching YouTube videos on how to grow. I started reading other content from other places. And we talked about it before too, but people are willing to share this information. You just have to look for it and then use it. That's the whole thing. Like knowledge is only powerful if you use it. I say that all the time within the fitness industry too. Like, how that you need to work out, you need to eat well, but unless you really use it to your advantage, then you can really grow from it.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's also the hard part of it is when you watch. And what's funny is prior to us recording, I was actually quickly vacuuming and listening to something from vidIQ. If people are watching and they know what vidIQ is, it's a platform to help YouTube channels. And the video I was watching, it was the comparison they were using were video games, and how YouTube is a video game, and somebody that's in the fitness industry, they might see content out there. And I feel like I've said this before, when I was looking for ways to improve my audio for recording content, you're looking in other spaces. And I think that is sometimes the hard part is I mean, I'm watching a video about this gentleman's talking about how YouTube's a video game. And you're like, but I create workouts like this. It doesn't work for me. It's taking that information and working it in your head so that it makes sense, that it's digestible to you. And, oh, wait a minute. The 30-second introduction that they're talking about, the way to hook somebody in the beginning of your workout. Oh, that's very similar to potentially the complimentary session that when I was a personal trainer and I'm just starting to, I got a client here. That's like my hook. I'm trying to hook them in, very similar to what we're doing on YouTube. We're trying to hook them in that first 30 seconds to stay, because we know that we're knowledgeable. We know we have education. It's just, we got to show them in that first little hook that, okay, I can take you on this journey.
Yeah. And what makes you different than somebody else? And I think that's the hard thing too, is that, especially in the fitness industry, and I know that there's a language barrier too. So you see a lot of people go onto YouTube and they don't speak. And I know you talk during your workouts, correct?
Yeah, I do.
And so do I. And I did do an experiment where I took it. I didn't do audio. I just did the preview with like everybody else. The video did not do bad, but then I redid it with audio and that one did much better. And a lot of the comments were, Michelle, I like it when you talk. And everybody talks differently. You know, I have this personal training background. So when I am talking in the workout, I'm not counting numbers because everybody can count. And to me, when I go to, because I got group fitness in my background too, when I go into a class, I don't need somebody counting because it doesn't help me at all in the workout. Maybe the motivation of a 3, 2, 1, because I know it's about done. But during a workout, the things that are important is correct technique, safety, getting the most out of that movement that you can to be efficient and effective. And that's been my thing since day one when I started training. It was like, I want it to be safe, efficient, effective.
I feel like you're in my head right now, and like you're just like you're pulling thoughts right out of my head. I'm like, man, I feel like I say that too. I think that too. Which I think that that's very unique, and I've thought about actually doing that. So it's great that you did the legwork for me. And with should I try one without audio? And I think that that's one of the unique things of YouTube is that there's different things for what the audience wants.
Right.
And
I mean, I can see where people don't want to do audio because then the language barrier is gone and all it is a visual. But for me, and I've gotten so many people reaching out to me and say, hey, Michelle, just the things that you say resonate with me. And I've gotten a better workout. And I know that my positions are much better. I'm in a safer place. I'm not getting injured. You know, to me, I think I said safety is always first. And you prevent injury when you do the exercise correctly.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I can't see you, but I'm going to say something like, hey, let your shoulders relax. And then people will be like, Michelle, when you say it, it's like you were looking at me and you knew exactly what I needed to do. And I said, because, you know, that's what the way I think, because I've worked with people one-on-one for many years, training them. And I was a great trainer because I was watching my clients. I've been in lots of places where trainers, it gets a little mundane for them and they're looking at their phone, they're looking in a different direction, but I've always been super focused because I know that they're paying for my time. I'm going to give you what you need to get to where you want to go.
I like that. I like that a lot. You know, the what we're talking about now with the uniqueness of it, I think there's also the personality aspect of speaking to the camera. People get to know you and bringing that to a community too. They know what you're like, the jokes that you make. I joke all the time in my workouts. Yes, we're doing a serious workout. You know, we're doing high intensity, we're doing Tabata, whatever that might be. But I mess up every single workout. I know I do. Yesterday when I filmed, I didn't hear my timer go off and I was still going, 8 seconds into my 10-second rest period. And that happens. The mistakes happen and people, they see it, they joke about it, they laugh about it too. But they keep going, they have fun with it. And I think that is an important aspect of showing your personality through the camera, which is not easy. I don't think that's it. You could say it, but actually doing it is the next element of it.
And what we do too, we could actually erase that. Like if we're filming versus live, you could screw up and then I do that often. And sometimes I throw some bloopers in at the end of the video, like that they don't see. So maybe now they're going to watch to the end, but but we can erase, our wrongs, but sometimes like I do too, I keep some of them in there so that they see that I'm just like them. I am not perfect by all means.
Exactly. That, and I like that. And that's a good segue to what we're going to talk about more of. And that was a complete tangent. I'm going to throw that into the podcast right here. That was a complete tangent. And that's exactly, I feel like, the tone of what this whole episode will be like, because Michelle and I, we both create content for YouTube, whether for myself, it's with KIPS or Time to Train, and that whole process, you learn so much from it. And that's what I want the audience to get from this episode, is hopefully that you learn that you can take those steps. You can, if you're in that department where you're thinking, I might have missed it already, or, it's too competitive. No, you can definitely take that time. But Michelle, right now, before we even recorded, I went to go check just to make sure I knew. And I'm sure you have a more precise number. So Michelle has 194,000 subscribers, 194,000. That's no joke. That's it's amazing. It's literally one of those things where you're like, oh my goodness.
And here you go. So it took a long time to get here. I mean, what are we? I call it like seasons, because we go on my driveway. We're outside at this stage. So it might be we might be going into season 5, I think. It just seems so, 4 or 5. Last year was 100,000.
Whew.
So I'm telling you, once you get, I think, to that 100,000 milestone, it's moving a little bit faster. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I remember when it said like 1,000.
Hey, I remember 1,000 from you, which was last year. And, we're adapting what we do with Time to Train and going more the individual route. But it'd be great to hear what your, I'll say, qualities for somebody that is in that boat, that maybe they haven't started. They're looking at, this does interest me. I do have that same perspective as Michelle in terms of I really care about my clients and I want to make sure they get a great workout. What are some of those characteristics that you think for somebody just starting out that really helps them with getting going, getting that channel started and getting going?
I think the first thing to do is just, you've got to start filming content.
Yeah.
Just film it. And it doesn't have to be, like we said before, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can have screw ups in it. But then every time that you go to create content, you need to make sure you're trying to make something better out of it. I remember listening to a podcast, and it talked about that too, is that every time that you upload, make it better, right? Maybe the intro is better. Maybe the quality is better. Maybe you decide to buy a mic. Maybe you decide to put like for me, the transition I never had a timer. I never had, I had a speaker that I would face to the camera. I had a whole mic system that came from I used the things that I had and I made the most out of them. Yes. And then I used the things that I had and I tried to level them up.
Great outlook.
And I talked to people, I asked them for information. I mean, and then I started spending a little bit of money, and then I actually started asking my community at the time to help me out. And they did. They were super awesome. They gave me donations. And then I was able to buy a camera, because I was using the GoPro for, I don't remember how long I used the GoPro. And then now I use a camera, and I use my camera for everything. Mm-hmm. So when I go live, I use I multi-use my stuff. I don't have a ton of gear, but the gear I have, I invested into it, but I leveled up as I went along. It wasn't all of a sudden I have the camera and I have you need to have the video editing software is really a key component too, so that you can add, if you need to layer on stuff.
Mm-hmm. I love that you shared that though.
But I always say basic, and we're lucky too, because being in the fitness industry, our videos are not complicated.
Yeah.
The only complicated thing, I think last year we started doing the previews or whenever it happened, that to me took a lot more time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what's a great takeaway is, I love that you say that about the whole GoPro, because people look around and they're like, I don't have that fancy camera, because again, how we started talking about with people in different areas of YouTube, that might be for them purchasing an expensive camera right off the bat. But I always say too, what phone do you have? Do you have an iPhone? Yeah, great. Use that. Use what you got. So don't invest right away. And I like the second part of what you said too, because I feel like I put it in every single podcast that I do. I'm talking about different gear to invest in. Use it across the board. If you're going to buy a camera, don't just use it for your workouts, use this for your social media content. Use it for, if you're creating a video blog, other items so that you get the most out of that. I think that that's such a great thing that you said.
Yeah, I know. I have that Rode lapel mic and I use that for my intros. And then I was like, hey, wait, all I need to do is buy a cord for my phone. Why did I not know? Like there's things that you go, I didn't even know I could plug my stereo system plugs right into my camera so that the audio goes right to, I could have been doing that from day one, but I didn't know it until I spoke to somebody from like B&H Photo, which they do a great, if you ever need like B&H Photo, you talk to the customer service there and they will hook you up with the right gear. I think they need to sponsor this.
I was going to say, I've seen their commercials on YouTube. Like I'm watching a video, like their commercials always pop up. And I do think that they have very entertaining commercials. I don't always just skip ahead on their commercials.
Yeah, that's good. But they'll sit there, they will go through like, they're like, well, what do you have? Oh, then they'll be like, well, this is what you need. Like even the other day I called them up, I think only spent $20, but they sent me just what I needed. They didn't, send anything else that I needed, but no, I have been continuing to, and I think you need to kind of make sure you find what you're good at. Like whatever you feel that you're really good at, then stick with it.
Yeah. That's good too with looking at a very common thing is, okay, what's your niche in the industry? What is it that you want to do with one channel? And I mean, there's so many different outlooks on this. There's so many different ways to approach it. And I think that stick with what you're good at, what you're knowledgeable about, because I feel like that also comes through on the camera. You're able to express it. You're able to share what you're really passionate about. And I think as you build with it too, you start to look at it like, oh, wow, do I want to go in another way? Do I want to add content? And I think it's all a learning experience. I can say that with the channel that my own channel, I mean, it started in one direction, but pivoted, changed it, adapted. And you have to be willing to do that. I think that is one of the hardest parts, not just with YouTube, but with any business. And having consulted for companies, a variety of fitness companies, I could say that is one of the areas that they struggle in. They don't adapt or pivot whenever it comes to them. They think that, oh, this worked for me 15 years ago. I'm going to stick with that. And I'm going to keep hammering that home, even though this technology is outdated or this process of doing something, and it ends up hurting them. And I think YouTube, it forces you to adapt.
And I would say the thing that's helped me in the last year too, is that you have to realize too, when you have to give stuff up. Like I can't do everything if I want to be big. And that is the thing, like you have to have your vision and your goal, and then make sure that at a time, like when you get to a certain place, and I knew that for myself, I had written that down. Like I had a plan, I just didn't go into it blindly. Like there was a plan that I had, and I knew I needed to have help. Like I can't do everything, because for up until like a year ago, I did everything. I did all my stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody else helped me. So I'm really proud of that I personally myself did it. And I had people who didn't believe in me, but I believed in myself. And that's all that matters. Like when you can really believe in what you can do, right? You do it. And then you just do like everything that you have to do, you do. So I do have an assistant at this stage now.
Yeah. Nice.
And I have to lighten up my load so that I can focus on the things that I really are important, that I can only do, because other stuff, somebody else can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to hear your breakdown of this with teaching in person, having that experience, being a personal trainer, group exercise instructor, teaching in person, and somebody in that boat. So let's say that they do work in person. And I think there are unique qualities to teaching online, that it's very almost shocking at first when you have that camera, especially if you're not used to it. And all of a sudden you press record and you're like, oh, you freeze up a little bit. What are some of those differences that you've experienced that it would be great to share with somebody that hopefully just moves them along a little bit quicker?
Well, this is the difference, Tyler. I was group fitness instructor. You get up in front of people. I mean, if you're like, or even a spin instructor too, you're in front of people. You kind of do this switch. It's like you become this actor or an actress in front of everybody. And you just, so for me to come on camera, it really wasn't that different. But there's times when you're recording and your head, like there's thoughts going through your head as you're talking about the intro or something, and it just doesn't come out or it comes out wrong. So there's a lot of repetition. I do a lot of repetition though. And now I've learned too that I write stuff down. Like I write down my intros. I write down like kind of like what the theme of the workout's going to be so that I have like a whole package deal.
Yeah.
So that it's not, in the beginning, it was never like that. But now that it's, this is a profession for me. This is my full-time job.
Yeah.
I make sure that I break this down. So getting in front of the camera, I think, like you said before, is that you just get your phone out, you just turn on record and you record yourself. And you got to remember too, that you're your worst critic. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can be really like, oh my God, I sound horrible. I look funny. My one eyebrow goes up higher than the other one. It's nobody else is going to care. As long as you can come across authentic, that's what draws people in. They can have that connection. And I try to do that too. Like, so when I look at the camera, I feel like I'm always trying to look at you, and I invite people into, like with YouTube, I invited them into my home. Like they're in my house, literally. Like they have seen my kids walk by, when we were all going through the pandemic. I remember somebody made a comment like, it's very unprofessional. I'm like, well, this whole situation is very uncomfortable. Like nobody was comfortable. But my kids, they're not messing with the workout. They're just part of what's going on here. And that's been what's kind of cool is that these people they've seen my kids grow up, from being, I think they were like 10 and 12, and now they're 15 and 17.
A quick little promo break here in this episode. If you're a fan of the KIPS podcast, you know that at some point there's a promotion for the Naboso Duo insoles. I just pulled these out of my shoes, gave them a quick rinse to get the sock dust off of them, and I wanted to talk about them because they're great. They're fantastic. They make an impact on your daily life. If you sit at a desk or if you're on your feet, sometimes your feet just feel achy, or maybe they feel like they went to sleep. That's for myself. I felt like after working a full day that my feet did not want to go to the gym, work out, do something active, and it led to some bad habits. But with these, I feel more active. I feel I can do more things, and I've been using them for over a year now. With your clients, with your family, with your friends, share them, talk about them, see what they think, because they really do make a difference. If your feet feel more active, you're gonna be more active, and that equates to being more healthy. Check them out. There's a link in the description. See all the products they have, and let's get back to this episode.
That's part of, I feel like, that aspect of the authenticity, but people these days, when they are investing their time into whether it's a company or an individual, they want to know more about them. They want to know more about you. They want to know more about what you're like. And that's why we talk about the personality already. But what are you showing them? What do you feel comfortable showing them? And I'm sure that there was a process that you maybe debated in your head. Do I want to show my kids? Do I want to show part of my house? And I feel like that ability too, or getting to that point. And I think that's a better way to say it. That getting to that point where you do feel comfortable with sharing that, I think that does take some time. But I think it's great that you do, because people want that. They want that investment from you on that side more than the workout. They want to see, well, who is Michelle? What is she like? What is she about?
And I remember in the beginning, I was always worried about the kids walking in the back. And I was like, you guys, it's not very professional. And then I was like, you know what? Screw that, because we're all going through it. And I can't have perfection. I don't need to be worried about that. I'm more worried about like if I'm live and the stream goes bad or my music cuts out, like when you're live, that's a whole different thing versus so if you're a YouTuber and you're debating on being live or just filming, I think it's great, Tyler, to do everything. Because live connects you with your community instantly, especially in the chat. I remember in the chat in the beginning during the pandemic, I had a lot, even people had time, people were not working, so the chat was always great. Nowadays, now the chats are not as big because people are working now and they're not. And the thing too, like I wanted people to realize that I'm working out at home just like you. Like you said, I was just keeping it real, being authentic.
Yeah, I agree.
But doing all those different modalities is great too. Going live, filming your content, creating playlists, all those things I think are really valuable.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you mentioned with this whole going or recording yourself. I feel like it's a great skill set that if you are taking that transition, and I'm sure you went through it too. I was the same. I did personal training and I taught group exercise. And if you are a personal trainer and then all of a sudden you're looking at going to group exercise, sometimes you have that, we'll call stage fright, that being in front of an audience. And then once you get used to it, it is exactly what you mentioned. You're like an actor. You flip that switch and you're going. And I think that recording is a great skill set for working on your public speaking skills. I think that's why I do it. That once I speak at different conferences, and I feel like I don't need that time to refresh myself to practice because I'm already speaking to a camera. I have my rhythm, I have my timing, I have all that stuff already set. And I think that is one of the great things of doing content for YouTube is you have your rhythm, you know what you say, you have that process. And with the videos, I think that I like how you mentioned how you write your notes of things you're going to say with a repetition of it. I started just more recently in the last month and a half, before I record or before I step fully in front of the camera, I will say my introduction out loud. So I know what it sounds like. And I have found for myself that it sounds smoother. I don't have to step off and then reset myself or because I'm fumbling over my words. I felt like it comes out smoother, comes out a little more authentic, a little more smoother than before.
Or you don't have to record it like 3-4 times.
Yeah.
You waste I feel like not that you're wasting your time, but it's just, I've done that. I think I filmed intros where I'll be filming an intro and my kids will be on the over there and they'll be like, Mom, that was fine. That was good enough. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. And I like that though. I like the feedback that you're talking about, like, because exactly what you mentioned, that you are your toughest critic. You're looking at every piece of it. But I do think that is good quality for being on YouTube, is that I know that when I used to do this different sport, I would film myself because I'm looking back at myself, trying to find those small things, but there are still people that they weren't watching themselves. And I think that now coming to YouTube, I think that is something that is a necessity, is being able to watch yourself critically, but not attacking yourself, is critically to find those small pieces that, ooh, when I demonstrate this exercise, I should turn slightly. That was one of the things that I just sent to an instructor that I work with. When she was stepping and doing lunges towards the camera, her foot would come out of frame. And I said, oh, next time you do it at home in your filming space, turn sideways. When you did it sideways, the people could see where you're stepping back, how was your upper body, your foot placement, all those little things that are, I think, unique to filming online.
And I think when you really, with YouTube, it's really the visual and the audio, right? So like you said, making sure you can see everything and hear everything is really important, because I've had issues too with my audio because I mix, because we are doing the workouts, because I have a group of women that work out with me, and working out in silence is not fun. You know, some people do that film their content. I don't know if you do, but we do not. You do? Oh my God, it's so boring.
Yeah, it's hard.
So the music that people are hearing during the workout, we're listening to it too. So that, especially because sometimes we're moving to the rhythm, and we need to have that music with us.
Yeah.
And there's been times where my audio, like maybe my mic is a little bit too low and you can't hear me as well. So I've learned to try to adjust that. Once in a while, it just like happens. Like I some things I just can't. I'm doing everything. Like I'm hitting record. I'm doing the timer. I'm doing the music. I'm telling them what to do. So I'm doing everything. Like I said, you do everything. When I got 7 people that have to follow me. Yeah.
That part of it does make it hard for me. With I don't have music that's playing while I record. It's actually very faint, and a little insight is I'm not listening to the same music I'm listening
Oh,
to.
not listening to the
Royalty free music.
copyrighted free.
No, I'm not. And it's very faint, but it's just enough that I can hear it. And most of the times you're not even thinking about it. So I don't even hear it. I'm just going with the workout, but you know what it is.
Put 7 people in there and breathing heavy. We need music. If you don't want to hear Catherine breathing in the background.
Oh, poor Catherine.
I know. Sorry, Catherine. She's a heavy breather.
But something else that I would like to go back to right here with putting yourself out there. I think that is one of the harder things I think a lot of us do. Did you have any advice for people that might feel that it is hard to put themselves out on social media? Maybe right now they're just doing pictures. And do you feel that there's any advice that you could give them to get over that barrier, to start building in that area, to build that confidence in themselves?
I think the biggest thing is that you have to stop comparing yourself to other people. Yeah. That's the thief of joy right there, you know. And here's a good story. My son doesn't have a phone right now, and he came home yesterday in an amazing mood. Oh my God, I had like the best day. He's a 17-year-old. He's had a phone for the last few years, right? I said, why? I didn't have my phone, Mom. I didn't have the social media, any of that stuff. He goes, I was just locked into everything that I needed for today. And I said, oh my God, that was such a great experiment for him. I said, we all need that. Mm-hmm. So I get it's like the thief of joy, right? When you start comparing, you're like, oh my God, I'm not like her. My content's not perfect. I don't have a timer. I don't have all you got to do, and everybody says it, is just start. If you throw it out there, believe me, my first video it's what it is, you know. Everybody, I'm just amazed. I think, Tyler, you threw out some really great content to begin with, right? You had it all. I didn't have it all. I didn't have a timer. I didn't have a progress bar. I didn't have a preview. I didn't have any of that stuff. I didn't have transitions, you know. But you learn over time. So I think it's just the key is just walk away from the comparison and just be authentic.
Yeah.
And that's what pulls people in. And then it's consistency, just like a workout. You don't get any results by just doing it once in a while. You got to be consistent.
Yeah.
So if it's every Monday, or if it's one time a month, or whatever it is, you have to be consistent.
One thing that I've pulled from everything you shared for me, and what I think is something that I didn't fully process to right now, is treating it like it's your profession too. I'm sure that you're the same way. You film at specific certain times, certain days. Yep. You film content. Treat it like you would a group exercise class time or a session with somebody, a 1v1. I'm the same. I film on Tuesdays and I film on Fridays, certain times, because that's part of my schedule. It's part of my routine. Treat it like that to get in that rhythm of filming on those days, so that as it grows, you can adapt it, look at it in different ways to figure out, okay, maybe I do want to add do I have the time to fit in another workout? I think that those are pretty, I don't say smaller things to think about, but they do help in the long term of growing a channel.
And batch, I've learned too, we batch film, we're going to do another challenge come May. We did a challenge in January, which was a 4-week strength challenge. We filmed it in the summertime.
Wow.
And we were filming, and I usually don't suggest to people, we were filming 2-3 workouts, but we only had so much time. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that too. As soon as I'm done filming some content, then I create the reel for it. And then I create the intro, and then I create the thumbnail, or sometimes depending on, I just do thumbnails and I change my clothes multiple times so that I have a bunch of images that I can pull from my library. But you don't learn that stuff until later on, how important those little things are. Mm-hmm. Even thumbnails. We're going back now, changing a lot of my old thumbnails. And it is making a difference. There's a higher click-through rate that's going, or click rate on it when you change little things. So you can go back, and I've done it too. I take my old videos, download them because I don't have them anymore, and then I'll add a timer and a progress bar. So you could think of it that way too. Like just throw it out there now. And then when you're ready to, you can go back and you can edit it and then throw it back out on YouTube.
Let's hammer home a little bit more on the thumbnails, because I think that is a great area to dive a little bit deeper into for those listening, because I mean, it's said in every single YouTube analysis video, breakdown, how to grow on YouTube videos, thumbnails, it's always spend more time on your thumbnails. Don't just have it as an afterthought. Spend more time on it. And the way that I always explain a thumbnail is that it's like window shopping. When somebody's on YouTube, they got their homepage or they searched a topic, and I do the same. I like YouTube, so I'm on YouTube throughout the day. But it's window shopping. You're scrolling and you see something that you like and you click on it. So just how Michelle said, that your click-through rate, that is part of your on the term, your CTR, for those that know what we're talking about here. It's window shopping. So what can you do to get someone to take that step to click through, watch it, and hopefully get hooked by what you're saying and what you're doing? What are some strategies that you take for your thumbnails?
Well, now it's been, because I have, like I told you, I have a large group of women that work out with me. We used to always do like this group photo, and that became too much. Like that was taking away too much of the space to advertise what the workout was. So I eliminated, now we're going to throw in one or two people, but typically now it's me. And then just having the main purpose of the workout be the largest. I took away the time. Usually I had a time on it, because now, YouTube does a little timestamp in the bottom right corner. So I was like, well, that's kind of a waste of my space that I want to use. And just make it more eye appealing so that it looks like it's, not too busy on the screen, and just more like, what is it in the workout that will pull somebody in? Yeah. And you learn too by reading it, checking your analyticals, what people click on, you know, if it's a hit, or if you title it full body or total body or no jumping, all standing, little things like that, like all standing, no jumping, no repeat. I'm like, and that's like no workout. Yeah. But people love that. You learn what they like, and then you try to use that to your advantage and use those words on the thumbnail, because you can always throw stuff into the description, the title on the side that they read. So then that's where I put 30-minute full body dumbbell workout for building strength or burning fat, or, Yeah. I'll say that thumbnails, and when I do speak with somebody about thumbnails, or even in a conference, I'll admit it is part of the superficial element of YouTube. And I mean, when you do work in a gym, in a live setting, there are superficial elements. People are watching you, people are looking at it. And that's why you work on your, what you're wearing in a gym. Are you clean cut? Is your hair done? You got your makeup on? Do you have all those things done? That's the same concept on YouTube. And I'll say it right now. I 100% flex in my thumbnails. It's not, I don't feel bad about it. Yeah. It's like, and I've found like a pose that works for me, and I'm laughing to myself because my wife pointed it out last night. She's like, I could see it's working for you, that pose. You've done it in your last 3 thumbnails. And yes, I have. And did they do well? That's the whole thing. Did they do well then? Exactly. They did well. Yeah. And those things happen. I feel like, yes, as a fitness instructor, a fitness pro, you want to think that people are just going to find your video and they're going to click through happily, but the superficial elements are there. And I think you just have to realize it and know. The way that I said this the other day to somebody is that they're there, but we are going to hook them with our thumbnails. And then we're going to show them our knowledge, our education, and our workout, and all the great features that we have of subscribing and working out with us. I think that's not the only, but one of the better ways that you can look at it and not beat yourself up for being superficial. Yeah. And, using trending titles is going to help you too. I think hit always gets people to click on stuff. And I know I'll be guilty of it too. Like, is it a real true hit? No, it's not. But does it bring people to the workout? Yeah. And are they getting results from it? Yeah, they are. Yeah. So I think that's great. They're moving their bodies, so the title isn't 100% accurate. You reminded me of one right there. That's like the whole fat burning one. Like, we know that
Are they going to burn 1,000 calories? Are they going to burn all this fat? No, but yeah, I think the same thing. You were trying to hook them in to give them like show them that we do have a great workout that can get you there eventually. It's just, it's a hard, I feel like that's one of the harder battles you have as a fitness YouTuber.
And thumbnails, you can change them. Like I said, we're changing a bunch of my older thumbnails right now, so they can change. You're not, it's not stuck. You can always make a change to it and then see how it does. Yeah,
agree. I feel like that's a great piece right there for people that are watching, that are just getting started. Spend more time on them. Take a process. Don't just skip over it when you're filming your workouts. Take the time to develop some strategy for thumbnails. And one piece I do want to pull from what you mentioned, how you did it, because this was a tip that was thrown in a video I was watching, was simplify it. Simplify how you're doing. If you're putting all these elements into it, every keyword, every item that you can think of, I think the tip that was do 50% of that. And I remind myself that one each time when I'm creating a thumbnail. Oh, I want to put this word. I want to do this cut, or I want to, Photoshop it in a way that it looks different. Do 50%. Make it simple. Simplify it to hopefully make it look more professional.
And you do, like when you look at people who may have 1 million or 2, 3 million, look at their thumbnails. There's some people I just go, really? Like and you're like, but still people are clicking on it. So who knows? Like you could throw something crappy out there and it might get a ton of hits on it.
Yeah, agree. Well, let's get to our podcast takeaways. This episode is flying by now. There's so much great information in here that I know that if you're in that boat, if you are somebody that has thought about YouTube, or you're working in a facility, you don't know if it's for you, everything that Michelle has said, I have experienced. I've gone through it. I'm seconding it. I'm telling you that it's not made up. You can go on that path, that journey of creating content online. So with the podcast takeaways here, a slight tweak to the usual question that people get on the KIPS podcast. What are 3 myths about teaching online?
Ooh, 3 myths about teaching online? 3? Maybe that it's difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to be in amazing shape. I think that would be a myth. You don't have to be. You need expensive gear.
I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
I think you've literally proved it throughout this episode, talking about the equipment you have. I think that is the route going in terms of use what you have. And I've heard that recommended many times from YouTube consultants that don't invest a ton of money right off the bat, because you don't make that much money right with YouTube.
I'm telling you, use what you have, because you already have. If you have a good phone, man, you can make great content, and you can go on Amazon and get a lapel mic really cheap. Like there's no reason why you can't do something like this.
Yeah. Before we sign off here, can you give the audience, and I got to make sure I say that this information will be in the description. You can easily click there, but any upcoming maybe filming events, what days you do film live streams, and channel information, social media stuff?
I usually try to go live on Saturdays on YouTube. So it's kind of like it's sporadic, because right now we've been doing a lot of traveling with kids picking a college. But I do have a program that's going to launch in May. We're going to do a 4-week challenge, which is great, because if you need a little bit of motivation and dedication, that'll start in the beginning of May and run for 4 weeks. But I love to go live. And then I found out too, hey, if I'm live on YouTube, why don't I just throw my iPad up and do Instagram at the same time? So I've been trying that just to generate, I think it's like anytime you can try to get other viewers from a different area. I thought, well, why not try Instagram? So I've been dabbling with that to do the live with the YouTube.
And what's the YouTube and Instagram handle?
I am Michelle Briehler. That's it. That's all you got to look for. Michelle Briehler.
Great.
Yeah.
Great episode. I can't thank you enough. I knew having you on and talking about YouTube and all this insight that it would just fly by. I looked at the clock at 45 minutes that just flew by.
Yeah.
And I knew it would. It happens each time that I have somebody that of your caliber and what you're doing. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share this information with the audience.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands, like I said before, you just have to believe in yourself, because I set a goal and I remember I was like, this is where I'm going to go. And then it was like, okay, now what are the steps that I need to take? And just take like a small step, but manageable step that you can start implementing on a day-to-day basis, because that's going to get you to where you want to be, no matter what that goal is, just small steps.
Great stuff.